right, so just taking a glance, that doesn't so much look like the east side of Cincinnati.
It's a little further. It's west. I'll say
I doubt that's the Ohio River behind you, because I don't recall trees like that. So
Yep.
where in the world is my partner, Sam Lecure?
We are on the Pacific Ocean. This is Hermosa Beach, is what you see behind me. It's a little pocket called the South Bay. So it starts Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach down to Redondo. And I lived out here in the off season for 3 or 4 years, about a mile and a half north of here. But this is a nice hotel that I like down here called the Beach House in Hermosa. And they've got there's always volleyball going on around here. Some of the best, the best in the world. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, they got a little tournament going on right now. So a little staycation.
Happy staycation, happy beach time, whatever that is. Cheers to that. But since you are in the Golden State, let's start there with the conversation. And there are 5 big league ballparks in the Golden State. Sam Lecure's favorite ballpark in California is what?
I'm going to say Dodger Stadium. It's the icon out here. Obviously, my story. Have some pretty good memories in Oracle Park or what AT&T Park or whatever it was called then, the Giants. And San Diego's a beautiful stadium, but there's that field at Dodger Stadium.
Dodger Stadium. So thinking back to your time as a player, crisscrossing California, what stands out from something that happened at a game on the field, in the clubhouse? What's your best California memory, since we're kind of California dreaming here off the top?
It would have to be, obviously, game 1 of the National League Division Series or whatever against the Giants, where I came in early for Cueto. That's a great memory, obviously, which ended up being a sour one. But at the time, it was great, right? I remember that. I think we had a 10-inning game in Dodger Stadium, scoreless, and I remember I threw the ball well that game. It was the game that the bullpen, we had a stat about it on the show, on the pregame show recently, most strikeouts from the 6th inning on, or whatever it was.
Right.
And it was one behind, this current Reds team was one behind that team, and it was in that game. I think I struck out 4 of 4, when Adrian Gonzalez, whatever. But Yasiel Puig hit a solo home run off of Stephen Parch in the bottom of the 10th inning to win 1-0.
Wow.
So that's a memory. Chappie throwing a 105.1 in San Diego. So there's a couple things.
I like that.
There's a couple.
I like this. I know you don't have a bell, but I like our California theme. Welcome inside to Dead Red Cincinnati. Brian Giesenslaw, former Red Sam Lecure. The leadoff spot today for the Cincinnati Reds, as we approach the Midsummer Classic, as we approach the All-Star game, is, along with David Bell, the first All-Star announcement we got, Elly De La Cruz.
Yep.
22-year-old, first-time All-Star Elly De La Cruz. Sam, in a nutshell, how do you think we got here with De La Cruz less than 200 games into his big league career?
I think just the excitement that follows him around, man. You see, Reds media had to create a time for him when he was coming through California, and other places for Elly De La Cruz time, right? Everybody wanted to get a piece of him. I think that it was consensus around baseball that you needed to get him into the game because he's one of the most attractive and exciting players that the game has to offer. It wouldn't have felt right without him. And if he's certainly respect from across the field when your peers are voting you in because they understand how he impacts the game. And to put that on the national showcase for everybody to see with all the other greats in the game, I think it's going to be good for baseball. I think it's going to be good for the city of Cincinnati. People are going to pay more attention to the team because they want to see more of him. I think it's great. I think he's put in the work and has made adjustments to – this isn't just some kind of a throw-in, I don't think. Every team has to have, a representative. But, Elly's – how many times have we said, only person in history to do this, only person to do that? So it's deserved.
And that, when we talk about De La Cruz, I think there's 2 separate conversations. There's that. He can do things on a baseball field, the combination of things that's so rare in terms of speed, power, all those things. But people talk about, it gets overused, but, baseball IQ, feel for the game. He's got some of that at a very early age, but something that I watch when I watch De La Cruz play is I watch how the other players on the other team react to De La Cruz. And most of it happens at second base or third base.
Yeah.
It feels like he engages everyone that he comes in contact with. It seems like there's always smiles. And I asked a little bit the other day, somebody in the Reds clubhouse, just do you have a sense for how De La Cruz has been received around the league by other teams and other players? Because for someone that's got some swag, definitely, someone that's flashy, someone that's going to toy with you with his speed on the bases, might rub some guys the wrong way. But it seems like there is mostly a respect for the maturity of how he's handling all of the things that he's been able to do at a young age. And after one game here a couple of nights ago, David Bell said, hey, I think that was one of the best games we've seen from Ellie this season. And we have those superlatives every night, right? Every night there's some sort of superlative for De La Cruz. And so I asked David, why did he single out that game? And this was coming off the losing streak, or being swept by the Tigers. And he said, because I felt like right from the start, Ellie's energy and the things that he was doing, all of it was geared towards winning that game and making sure that he kind of dragged everybody else with him to get into the game early with his speed and make sure that that was the tone setter to win the game. And so I think while you have a player that does some incredible individual things and now is an all-star, he's also the ultimate competitor and teammate who just wants to win, but he wants everybody to have as much fun as he's having. It's fun, but he wants to win. And I think we've seen some of that.
Yeah, and I think that's going to rub off because it's genuine. I think that's why it's been well received across the league, in the clubhouse, everywhere, because it's a genuine enjoyment for the game. And I mean, we feel it. I think that's why me, a former player, a common fan, everybody is just drawn to it because there's a realness to it. So obviously it's great for us to get to watch him on a nightly basis, but I am excited to see him get on the national stage.
Exactly. All right, second all-star for the Reds, Hunter Green. So you've got 22-year-old Ellie De La Cruz, 24-year-old Hunter Green, one of 30-some-odd first-time all-stars. I mean, a ton of first-time all-stars. So you insert Hunter Green, who's had these type of all-star expectations since he was in about the 8th grade, and now he arrives at that point. What strikes you about Green and how he's gotten here? It's a pretty rapid progression. I mean, people are going to say, man, he's been around forever. The dude still does not have probably 600 innings total on I think it's 64
arm.
starts.
64 starts. I'm going back to the minor leagues.
Yeah.
It may not have, 1,000, certainly doesn't have 1,000, but the fact that he's been able to pick it up that quick, because there's such nuance, to pitching, certainly in the big leagues. Obviously the stuff helps him out. There's no denying that, but his stuff at the big league level, is damn near a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Everybody can throw 96 to 98. Everybody's got a slider, right? But he's doing things with command and some of the deception with his delivery. He's making the starts. So I think just that's what strikes me about it. I think he's deserving of it. You could argue for Andrew Abbott in that position as well. Andrew Abbott's put together a hell of a year. I don't know how much people take into account WAR. I think theirs is pretty close, but I think you look to Hunter more because he's been around a little longer to lead, and I think maybe that's why it went his way. But it's hard to imagine this is the last one for him, or for that matter. So no, I'm excited for him. Obviously, it's been, he's stated that goal. Like he wants to garner some accolades, and I think that's okay. Sometimes it might rub you wrong if guys say it out loud, like, well, what about the team winning the division? If that's not said in the same breath, it's come off wrong to me. I'll just admit it. It's come off wrong to me. Like, you're talking about accolades and MVPs and Cy Youngs and all this shit. And like, what about winning the division? Like, where was that in the conversation? It's okay to state your goals if that's something that you want to achieve. So he's achieved it now. I'd imagine he'll achieve some more, but congrats to both those guys. That'll be a cool experience.
Yeah. When Green was asked about it, he said a lot went back to last offseason. He had kind of look in the mirror moment of, okay, I've done this a little bit. I've had injuries. I haven't pitched as well as I'd like. How do I get there? And had kind of one of those,
Come to
wake up
Jesus
moments,
Yeah.
come to Jesus moments. And so he said that's been his focus since the offseason. And now, even more than the first 2 years, Sam, you and I look at him, he seems obsessed by routine and preparation.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes from talking to other players who've done it. And so I think the All-Star game for Hunter Green, if he gets some of those moments sitting around with some of the guys that have been there and done that before,
could
I
expedite
think that's going to feed his
Yeah.
insatiable appetite for, okay, more preparation and routine. This is what he does. This is what he
Yeah.
does. This is what he does. And they always say when you come back from an All-Star game for the first time as a player, it changes you, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I'll be interested
I've
to
heard.
see how it changes both of these guys when they come back because they're so young.
Yeah, that's a great point. It will kind of feed. All right, he's gonna go. I mean, and both of them, I think, have been sponges. That's why you see him going up and talking to different guys and wanting to find out. And it takes that, man. I think, especially a lot of young players in the league, they'll get there and be a little intimidated to go across the field and ask whoever,
Right.
or whoever, Shohei, go up and poke Shohei Ohtani. I mean, some guys are intimidated to do that, but man, they're shooting themselves in the foot. Like, honestly, I mean, I felt like I asked some questions, not enough. I feel like there's so much knowledge to be gained from people with knowledge, so if you're dumb, big league jobs don't grow on trees, man. Not even those kind behind me. So if you've got one, you need to, foster that as much as you can and soak up as much information as you can by asking questions. You've heard it since second grade. The only dumb question is one you don't ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I put that to the test a number of times, but I find it to be true for the most part.
Yeah, and you're talking about Ohtani. Ellie did say, I asked him if there was someone that he was especially looking forward to maybe getting a little more time with than just standing at second base or around the cage talking. And he said he's trying to learn some Japanese so he can talk to Shohei. And I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. He said the thing he was most proud of, we'll wrap it up, the thing he was most proud of about this season and getting to this point was the fact that he's learning English. And I thought that said a lot about what he wants to be and how he wants to do this. So congrats to those guys.
For sure. Ding.
Yeah. All right. No, not quite yet. Quickly wrapping up. And you kind of touched on it already. Your non-all-star from the Reds would be fill in the blank.
I feel like you have to go with an Andrew Abbott, especially because, Frankie hasn't been what we thought he was going to be. To this point, he's getting better. Nick Lodolo hasn't been out there for all the starts. I think if he would have, he'd have been kind of a no-brainer. But Andrew Abbott, I think he's won 5 out of his last 6 or 6 out of his something like that. And just, his ERA is just a tick above, 3.06 or something.
It just went down a little bit.
Yeah, 7 scoreless the other night. 7 scoreless is always going to help the old ERA. But I feel like he's been great, man. I feel like he's talked it well. He's made it real simple about, and been candid in the right way. It's about this. It's going out. Maybe I didn't get a couple calls I didn't want or I wanted, but I still got to go out there and make the next pitch. Or we got to get everybody. I like the way he talks the game, and he definitely. He was the first guy that came to mind that I would have liked to see there. Jonathan was making a hell of a push. I'll say for the last month and a half or so, like he's been making a hell of a push, and he came to mind as well. But just for the consistency since day one, it would have had to have been Andrew.
I would agree. I would concur. All right, shifting gears. When we started this thing, we talked about the things that we like and the things outside of baseball that we were going to talk about that we like. And that was Texas, that was music, that was travel, music. California.
Buddy Guy.
Your Buddy Guy hoodie, which I love.
Him the other day, yeah.
We could tell Buddy Guy stories later.
Yep.
But one of the things that was on that list, no doubt, food, right? Yeah. And so we know that, and then we got from one of our loyal listeners and viewers, got the question about clubhouse spreads in big league baseball. Right. So before we, dive in and divide some of this up, how about a broad explanation of you're a big leaguer. There is food in every clubhouse, home and away. Yep. But when you talk about a clubhouse spread, what's the difference between home and away? What's available? What does that look like when you plan to go to the ballpark every day and know you're going to eat at a certain time? Just lay of the land for me.
Okay. So going at home, you're going to get some more variety just because you're there more. I mean, you're
Mm-hmm.
81 and 81, but when you're on the road, it's different place, different place, different place. So you're at home for 81. So there's going to be a little bit more variety. When you get there in the afternoon, there's going to be, some chicken salads or some tuna salads or, a salad, a meat, things like that. And that'll be kind of an earlier, lighter lunch portion before you get your, bigger day's work in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's at home. Then after batting practice, you're gonna it's gonna be something a little bit similar. A snack, some granola, and I mean it's a pretty good little spread. I mean think of a buffet, and that's kind of what you're looking at. And then after the game, they'll typically either the Diamond Club or whatever at the ballpark. That's where a lot of these places, the clubhouse get their food. The Diamond Club will whip up some, a prime rib or a chicken dish, or obviously a good protein and vegetable. I mean, it's thought out as far as diet goes, right?
Yeah,
Certainly more at home.
Yeah, and at home, even more so now, increasingly, you have the chef and
Yes.
the tailored menus to what guys would like to have on their training table, right? So there's that.
Absolutely.
And then the road is different in what way?
The road's different. It's going to be less variety because, all right, so we're going into Milwaukee, right? We're going to be there for 3 days. The pregame stuff is going to be pretty much the pregame. It's paninis and, paninis. What else they got? Milwaukee bratwurst, some things like that. Like it's going to be that.
Right.
The pregame stuff, just kind of what it is, man. And it's some sustenance to throw in your body and go out there and try to win a big league ball game. After the fact, it's going to be every time we would go in there, and this is across the board in the major leagues. After the game, it's this one, and this one.
Mm-hmm.
It gets better as you get closer to time to write the check. To the clubhouse guy, which can be a handsome amount for a couple days work, right? So
yeah,
and that's pretty much every place across the board because they can just keep ordering the same things over and over every 3 days for a 3-game series, and that's kind of so that's how that portion of it goes. Is my little lay of the land. Now there will be other instances where, and I think if I'm going to ruin this, stop me, but
don't ruin it.
We'll get into different cities and guys will.
That's right.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So one thing that stuck out in my mind, we went to Baltimore back like this was yesterday in 2012. and somebody had them go down to the wharf or whatever it was and bring back a big box of crab. Everybody's in there with the hammers. They set up a big table for us, just like you would. We're in there hammering crabs. We were out in Colorado one time. Somebody wants some Rocky Mountain oysters. So, just some things like that. So in different cities, which would be fun,
Yeah, yeah. And, the Reds were just in New York, and I know a lot of the Dominican players had someone actually cook for them Dominican style, and that's always a big deal. But whatever it is, the takeaway here is wherever it is, it's a big step up from the cereal and the peanut butter you get in AA and AAA, right?
That's a fact.
Big step up.
That's a fact.
All right, so we're gonna carry this now into 5 and dives. So I want you to give me your top 5 road clubhouse spreads and one thing that you would eat there that put it on this list for you. So number 5 is. I hope you wrote this down.
I didn't. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it in order. So I can't go from bottom to
top.
Okay,
well, just give me 5.
Okay, but I would say the number one place is Yankee Stadium. And I'm sure you can imagine they've got the most money. They had the biggest variety. I mean, it was always going to be a steak, maybe lobster, some crab legs. The variety of their spreads and looks like the preparation that it took to put it out, that stood out. So we'll go with Yankee Stadium for sure. I loved going into Miami because I am a lover of Latin food.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned New York as a place they do that.
Yeah.
That wasn't certain. Obviously, you can imagine, some Cuban food or some Dominican type food. So Miami had that. Miami always had the Presidentes, which is a Dominican beer, which I played in the Dominican for a couple of years. So I got, that's starting to sound good right this moment. I may be on the West Coast, but I'm on East Coast time, so it's noon somewhere.
All right, that's 2.
Miami was great. I did love going into Philly because I do love a cheesesteak, and it felt like they had that little. There'd be a competition, folks at home, that how many could somebody eat in one day? How many could
Right.
somebody eat over the course of the series? And I mean, they kept a running tally of it. I don't know what you won for it other than being the fattest on the team, but but Philly had that one, so that one stood out to me. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I should have written this down.
2 more. Dos
I know.
más.
I feel like it's cheating to say Cincinnati since I had that all the time, but that's one that stood out. San Diego always had some good food.
Good fish.
Yep,
Fish
some good
tacos.
fish out. Absolutely, yep. And some of those, I feel like San Diego was one of the places where they'd have a guy come in and whip it up for you. And San Diego was one of my first road memories as far as going on. That was my rookie year, the first time I remember going in there. So just kind of blown away by some of the things that were going on. And let me get a Houston, Texas. Let me get a Houston in there. Let me get a little barbecue.
Bring it.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna take out San Diego. I'm gonna say Atlanta.
What'd you get in Atlanta?
You got
just
some
Southern food.
Southern food, man. And so that I'll parlay that into Dusty. Are we gonna say about? So Dusty would at different places on the road.
Wait.
Huh?
This is the stretch.
Okay.
And we're just sliding 5 and dive right into the stretch. And as soon as you said Southern food or soul food, we can take that to Dusty, because any Dusty story is a good story.
Yep.
But you know that whatever Dusty loves, he can't help himself but to share that with the people around him that he loves.
100%.
And that's the story I want now.
That's how it would go. So and other guys would do this, but I think they learned it from Dusty. So each town, Dusty's been in the league for 50 years, right? He's been in every city. And if you've ever even caught a glimpse of Dusty walking around, it looks like he's got an entourage because people want to be near him. Because he's sharing, he's caring, he's genuine. So every city that we would go into, we'd show up on day 1, maybe day 2, maybe both days or whatever. And there'd be to-go plates on select seats, 4 chairs, 5 chairs, 6 chairs, 7 chairs, whatever it was, whatever he could carry at a place in LA, or wherever that he loved and just wanted to share it. He was going to go over there. So he's thinking, I'll get some for the boys too. So he would bring that in pretty much every city that we go to. And for me, that's why I kicked it back to Atlanta, because I remember coming in there, man, and it was some fried chickens, some collard greens, some mac and cheese, an awesome piece of cornbread, and I wanted it the next day. So I get the names. I'd start getting the names from him. Hey, where was this place from? Because hopefully I was going to go back the next year or whatever it was. Like, what's the name of this place? What's this place I can tell people to go to in, Chicago? He was always throwing out a Joe's Crab Shack in Chicago or whatever the case may be. So it was that was a fun part, man, because food connects people when you share it, when you're around it, when you're around a dinner table. I think it's a great way to get to know a city, a culture, or whatever it is, and that was certainly a part of the gig in the big league. So one of my favorite little tidbits.
I love that. We're going to talk more about Dusty at some point, and I think I just thought of a new segment. We're going to do a segment with you or with anybody else we have on the show who has an association with Dusty, and it's going to be people I saw when I saw Dusty Baker, or people who were in the clubhouse when Dusty managed, or random people I saw in Dusty Baker's office. Because it could be anybody.
Oh, I mean, it's Buzz Aldrin. It's Hank Aaron. I swear to God, I saw Buzz Aldrin in Washington D.C. And then Hank Aaron in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's like, what is
astronauts,
going on here?
Musicians.
Yeah. We'll call it toothpick time.
There you go.
Toothpick time.
Perfect. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that for sure. All right, that wraps up the stretch. We're gonna close now. This being All-Star Week, we'll each do a brief discussion here, and then each do a pick for the home run derby.
Okay.
They tweaked the rules a little bit in that, and I think it's good to keep guys from totally wasting themselves on a 60 pitch segment.
Yeah.
They limited the pitch count in certain rounds. They've kind of streamlined the competition. But your competitors, no Judge, no Ohtani, no Ellie De La Cruz. But right now, that as we talk, we have Gunnar Henderson, Pete Alonso, Alec Boehm, Bobby Witt Jr., Marcelo Zuna, and Jose Ramirez. So how about a pick for you for the home run derby?
Just one.
Yeah,
I like.
who's going to win?
I really like Gunnar Henderson, man. And I would, it would, if it wasn't him, it was going to be Bobby Witt Jr., the two American League shortstops. Bobby Witt Jr. from that area, so that's a hometown.
Colleyville, Texas.
Yep. So both those guys,
Be the hometown guy,
and they're both young, right? So I feel like they'd be able to like get through it and still keep their and hold their legs under.
Yeah,
but I like Gunnar Henderson.
Gunnar Henderson for you. I like Bobby Witt Jr. in that story. We saw it play out in Cincinnati in 2015. Todd Frazier, not his hometown, but his home ballpark.
Right.
So I like those feels, but I kind of think Pete Alonso is going to win a third. If he wins a third, he ties Junior for the only guy that's done it 3 times. And, when you talk about the way that competition tests you physically and kind of breaks you down, it never seems to bother him.
Yeah,
I mean, he just keeps swinging.
Yeah.
It never looks like he's tired. It never looks like, he's wearing down. He just keeps swinging and the balls keep flying. So I think Alonso's going to win for a third time.
I like the pick because he's got experience doing it. He's not going to be fazed by it. That's a big ballpark. I mean, you got to big boy some stuff out of there. So that plays into it too. But I like your pick as well.
All right. I like, your All-Star week started early. Cheers to California. Wrap it up for us and tell them what they need to know.
I would, if I was y'all, go somewhere like Apple or Spotify and wherever you would listen to a podcast and click on this one, man. I mean, we have a good time. We travel around a little bit. We dress it up a little bit, like it, download it, tell somebody else about it, and keep tuning in. We'll have some fun.
All right, man. Have a good trip. We'll see you when you get back.
All right, brother.